So recently I asked the question, how corrupt is Dr. Theresa Tam? Because the question on her is not how stupid is she for some of the decisions she made, primarily being the one where she decided that there was no medical evidence to suggest that allowing people to travel from hotspots of disease pandemics into your country had any negative effects on your ability to handle said disease. That's stupid. There's no doctor who ever would say that, but she did, as Canada's chief doctor. So the question isn't, is she stupid? The question is, what is the level of corruption within the Liberal Party? And I want to actually legitimately answer this question on how corrupt could she be. And the scary answer is probably not that corrupt. So what do I mean by this? Canada, and the criticism against Dr. Tam is the same criticism to the Health Minister Patty Hajdu and Justin Trudeau. At every turn, they have repeated obvious communist Chinese propaganda as health advice, even when they know they shouldn't. So the example, yes, the hotspot stuff, they would just take the WHO's numbers on China as fact, even after the WHO was exposed as clearly a propaganda arm for the Chinese government on this issue. Many other things, just every single time the WHO puts out numbers, these are taken as absolute fact and then used to dictate Canadian policy. So I blame Theresa Tam more than I do Trudeau and Hajdu on this because she bears higher responsibility as a actual doctor. Yes, Patty Hajdu is the health minister and bears lots of responsibility, but she's not qualified to do so. She's like an interior designer or like a graphic designer or something. She was because it's 2015 diversity hire to the cabinet. That's what she is. She's a diversity hire. She's a diversity hire. She's qualified to be MP because she won an election. She's not qualified to be health minister. And, her things are, she was the one taking private flights back and forth, traveling to family and telling you not to do so. And Trudeau's been pushing communist propaganda. But Dr. Theresa Tam should have known better and should have taken a stand. So what type of corruption is this from Theresa Tam to say, yeah, let's just bring people in from the disease hotspots? What could go wrong? China hasn't had any new cases in the last 4 months. They stayed stable at 83,000. Yes, we believe that. Probably not that much, because if you think of it from her point of view, maybe she wanted to speak up. But she saw that if you speak up against Justin Trudeau and the Liberal Party, you are done. Your career is over, right? Jody Wilson-Raybould did it. Jane Philpott did it. They got axed, right? And Jody Wilson-Raybould has like the maximum amount of intersectional armor, or near top, Indigenous, woman, Canadian. That's pretty high. Like, if she would just need to convert to Islam and declare herself a man, and then, the transgender Muslim Indigenous person, takes the cake. But even then, it doesn't break the Liberal Party cult of personality, which is Justin Trudeau. I mean, he can put on blackface, and you could stand up for Canadian democracy, and you're out, and he's in. So Dr. Theresa Tam probably might have said, if I start to say things like, hey, maybe we should close the borders to the people in the epicenter of the disease, I might get kicked out. And probably her thinking is, well, I'm really smart and I'm really qualified. So in order for me to stay in as chief doctor and be able to do the max amount of good I can do, it makes sense to make this small compromise right now. I will repeat something I know to be untrue. I will put the lives of Canadians at risk to do so. But in sense, I will be saving more lives because my presence as top doctor will be saved. And if I go out, then someone even worse than me will come in, and that will cost even more lives. So it's very likely that Dr. Theresa Tam has just been making some very, very small incremental compromises on her integrity. And this is the danger, though, of politics. And this is why everyone hates politicians, is because the way conspiracies usually work, I don't want to say that. Let me rephrase that. My reason why I generally distrust the mega conspiracy theories that people have is not because there is no truth to them. I mean, okay, Epstein pedophile island, and the media isn't reporting it because the elites are clearly involved in some sort of high-level pedophile nonsense of evil. We have to stop that, right? But in terms of, sort of most things, it's not like you're getting a manifesto, you're trained from birth to go through the Soros organization and do things. The reason why bad things sort of happen and why sort of you see like communist infiltration into Western society is slow and incremental compromises by people at the top, for expediency purposes. That's like the real threat of the infiltration. That's the real threat of the breakdown of the government. It's not like the entire Liberal Party is together like, oh yeah, we're going to give it to China. Yeah. Oh, I'm bought by China. That's not what they're thinking all day, right? But it's just slow, and they kind of know, okay, here's the line. If I cross that, then China will get mad. And then And then in 2021, well, here's the line if I cross that, and then 2022, here's the line. So it moves slowly and slowly and slowly. That it's like, the frog, you put the frog in the boiling pot of water, it doesn't notice until it's been cooked alive. This is sort of the level of corruption you see, which is much, much more reasonable. And the reason I talk about this is because this is now how Canada is being governed. It has gotten to the point, and I don't like the phrase cancel culture, because I think cancel culture is just sort of another manifestation of improper use of political correctness. And this is sort of the same thing on a major level of like politicians being cowed by essential, this is literally political correctness. And in the Liberal Party, it's you don't ever disagree with Justin Trudeau publicly or else you're done. This is dangerous because the cult of Justin Trudeau's personality has led us to a point where, hey, we need to worry about, our feelings and emotions as someone who values open borders, and we are a global citizen, right? Our virtue signaling global citizenry, this is sort of taken precedence over the health and safety of the Canadian people. And at the same time, they want to lock us down for 3 years now for health and safety purposes. Right? And this is, again, the malfeasance, and this is why people don't trust him. So you have to ask these questions, because these slow and incremental compromises that quite clearly Dr. Theresa Tam has made. So we know she is capable of compromising her integrity and lying to the Canadian public for what she might think is the greater good. Well, now she's talking about 2 to 3 more years of lockdown, right? Is that a sort of compromise where she thinks, okay, you know what, it might be safer to do this and that, and I'll still be in charge and I'll have this, and Trudeau's thinking, well, it will help me, get certain laws passed, and we can extend emergency powers, and maybe I can get, a special coin made for diversity, or whatever the hell his thoughts are each day, who knows? That's sort of what he is thinking. And the other thing is, well, now we're not, all this stuff, she's also, and the Canadian government is also ignoring whatever data that doesn't fit the narrative. Now, I'm not saying like, the right anti-mask conspiracy is totally right and the government is totally wrong. There's probably a gray area here on coronavirus, but to ignore the numbers coming out of Sweden, where what Sweden has done is maybe reached herd immunity by not going into complete lockdown, sort of relying on everyone to be reasonable and having the youth sort of live their lives and develop some sort of herd immunity. We have to kind of look into that. And the fact that we're not even looking at data that might contradict our worldview is so incredibly dangerous. And I remember this because I remember when kids would copy my biology homework. I love science, right? And the left sort of attack on science, right? The left will say, oh, you can't, it's all that you can't challenge the science. Of course you challenge the science. The left is so hyper-partisan in this that they will not even look at studies that don't fit their worldview and try and find the truth. And it's so incredibly dangerous. And we now have a system of government where I don't think Dr. Theresa Tam is hand-wringing like, oh, what does China want me to say today for my pot of gold? Like, no, that's probably not how it works. She probably thinks she is a good person, which enables her to lie to the country for the greater good, because her self-perception as a competent, capable doctor lady is probably what is causing her to justify lying to the Canadian public, passing off communist propaganda as health advice. And that's really dangerous. And that's sort of indicative of the wider political system everywhere these days. And it's really, really, really scary.